So Shamas Springs is a huge private villa complex, I would say.
Yeah.
It's having the main building, then a guest house, a yoga studio, but the main attraction is really the villa. It's more or less 7 floors from the bottom to the top, and
Yeah.
having a height of 24 meters, which is more or less the double of what's allowed in Indonesia, or at least in Bali. But since it's located on a cliffside, we're able to build into the ground in the way of the permitting process. So we got around with a bit more leverage than normally allowed.
Okay. Then we're entering the next project.
Yeah.
This is this is called Alchemy Yoga Center. So basically, this is a complex of yoga shalas and supporting buildings, and we're gonna talk about this dome for today. So basically, as you can see, this dome looks like just a simple dome from the outside. But once we enter, we can see it as some of complex arrangement of the structure, but yet it is so calming for the yogis to do the yoga activities inside. And this is the sketches that we start from before we going into an actual 3D computational design. Yeah. And for the floor plan, it is just a simple circle with a deck on it. But if you can see here, there are some pedestals where the arches are landings. And each of this pedestal holds more than one arches to make the geometry of the dome is really working to make a beautiful arrangement. As you can see here, this is the section of it. So this is the bamboo structure that are supported by the rafters that are forming the shape of the roof while supporting the arches, the main arches structure too. And then this is the photos with the lightings on. As you can see here, the openings of the building is kind of following the proximity and the sequence of the yogis, since they're bending over their body and then doing yoga activities. So we're trying to incorporate that to our design too. With this dome, we are using copper roof as the cover for this building from the weather, direct rainwater, and direct sunlight. And then we use some local stones to make it easier for the builders to bring the pedestals to the site. Yet it is so beautiful, so we kind of happy to use these natural stones. You can see the stones right in this photo here. So it is a big boulders that are easy to find in Ubud. It's just the river stone. It is strong and is beautiful, so we are happy to use it as the pedestal in this project. Then we can continue to this. As Lucas said before, the physical model is important thing for IBUKU and most of the bamboo builders and carpenters in Indonesia, because it is easy for them to locate where's the detail, where's the joint. It's just make it 3-dimensional for the builders. So physical models is just a must for us in bamboo world. As you can see here, we can see where the joints are need to be detailed in the drawings. And yeah, just to state that this physical model have so many uses for us as bamboo designers. Once we're done with the design on physical models, we started to build with 3D models. For this case, we're using computational design with grasshopper and rhinoceros. And then once we're done doing this, we're going back and forth between physical models and 3D models. So all the details that are need to be brought up or can be drawn and designed nicely.
And I can see it's a quite complex script in Grasshopper.
Yeah, it's just a small kind of view.
That's Maddie's, yeah, forte.
Zoom in for a bit.
No, man, I'm not in this level, but wow.
Have you guys been using this Grasshopper and other these programs way before IBUKU start? I mean, since like you started for, or is it something that you adapted along the way?
No, it's something that came along the way. Actually, this project is showing the very first time that it got used in a project at IBUKU. And it helped in the form finding a lot, because in the beginning, we tried to figure out a way where we have only 2 layers of main arches, the ones that we see below. And for that, we started with sketches that I'm going in one direction, that's fine. That we've seen over here, where we got the first main ideas that we wanted to create the island of the yoga floor separated from the structure. And then we actually started in the physical model to see how we can create a system. And we started laying out bamboo sticks to see that we really just stay in the 2 layers. And then, as you can imagine, we built a lot of beautiful bamboo models, but they also need a lot of time. And to speed it up, we actually decided to get the parametric design as a helper in, to quickly get a lot of different ideas how we can have different arrangements and how we can really benefit with the input and the work that is basically automated for us at some point. And then what Fred said, you get the first ideas, the first information, and then you put it in the physical model. And then the model makers, they are really artists in that sense. They're architects. And on top of that, very skilled model maker. On top of that, also artists in the way that they use their handcraft. And they always come up with new ideas. So we gave the 3D model to Donny, one of our leading model makers. He started doing it. Then he was shaking his head and telling us that it's not working the way that we thought it would work. Then 2 seconds later, he's coming up with an idea that's then inspiring us to change parts of the design. And then we bring it back to him. And then he's finding new parts. We find new things. So it's basically a ping pong game between the 3-dimensional world and the physical model making world, where the magic of IBUKU is actually happening. It's the friction between the 2 traditionals and the more modern techniques that really benefit the design of bamboo.
And you know, what's really interesting is when you mention parametric design or computational design, everyone thinks about new materials, or they have to invent a new material chemically, or make it such a huge different structure to make that happen. But sometimes it's just the mindset of how you can rethink about the traditional way and how you can use the very simple material to achieve a very complex outcome from the project. That's I think so important. And guys, I have a question. When you want to start such a project, what's the first step here? You start by the simple sketch of how it's gonna artistically look, or you jump through the structure, jump through the floor plan. What's the first step and how you pursue this design process?
So the first step is really what we see on the left side here. The first sketches where we get a feeling of what space we want to create in the inside and what the material shall be and how we can combine it in the feeling of the sense between having different openings that are looking out to the nature. Because if we look into the finished building, we can see we have a garden that is surrounding us, but each direction is having a different view and a different connection to the nature. There's a different rhythm behind the openings. So sometimes we have a small opening, then one that's switching over two parts. And that's basically the first considerations. In this part, the floor plan was really straightforward. It was really just to be considered to have a nice space to be able to do yoga. What was really important for yoga was that it's a space that you can really use in the way that the teacher wants it to experience it. For example, if you have your morning yoga session, you might want to teach in this position. So you need to be able to have a layout of yoga mats that can be ranged towards this direction. Some people prefer to have a meditation. It would be a bit more in a circular layout where it's more focused towards the center. And that's why we came up really quickly with the only conclusion of having a round yoga space and different openings towards different directions of the land side.
And I've seen in one of the images, the one of the images of the project. It kind of looks like an armadillo animal, with the skin and with the shape. Was it
because
like
of the shells? Yeah.
Yeah, because of the maybe that came across your mind.
You mean this one?
The previous one, I believe I've seen a
No?
It was a perspective. I mean, an actual image.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming a lot about the layout of the copper shingle because it's giving it a more monolithical impression from the exterior. But as Fred mentioned before, it was really important to create a nice, well-balanced and grounded atmosphere inside when you're entering. And it's giving you really the kindness and the moment where you actively enter the yoga space. So your mind is getting prepared on the journey that now you do something that's disconnected from your daily life to really focus again on yourself, your body, the people and the nature that are surrounding you to really get this awareness awakened.
Yeah, that image, you see, it really looks like an animal.
Yeah.
So guys, I'm just curious, since you started working on like grasshopper and rhino, have you ever considered transitioning to 3D printing, or do you think it's something that should be really saved for like 3D modeling? I mean, the actual physical 3D modeling with the actual sticks.
I think with 3D printings, it would help with efficiency of time and everything to present to the clients. But with the bamboo physical models that we actually build, we actually make with the bamboo fibers, it helps us to figure out the strength of the bamboo. For example, if we make this kind of curve, is it possible to make this? If it's not, then we cannot make it with bamboo then. So this real bamboo physical models really helps us to consider our curvature, how the tension works and everything. If we change it to PLA, maybe that aspect of bamboo character will be lost in our design. What do you think?
There's so many valuable properties in the bamboo sticks. We need to take attention that we keep a bit of the skin of the bamboo on them, because that's really what's showing us the properties of how you can bend it. And for me, it's kind of a fun experience because in my first year of studies, I had a professor who was saying, out of a joke, if you are able to build out of a cardboard cantilever that's 20 meter long and should represent concrete, for sure it would hold in the real life. He said it in a really sarcastic voice because model making is not representing any structural properties in the way that we learn it at university. But with bamboo, it actually really gives us so many informations. Because if you're in a certain scale, mostly it's starting from scale 1 to 50, and it's getting more precise in 1 to 25, you can actually get a feeling how structural stable your model is. You can press on it to see if it's moving, you can rotate it, and then you see where you need to add other poles and beams to really give this feeling back. And what Fred said is you could 3D print it, and you would have a beautiful model to present to your client, but it's not helping us in the design way. You would not be able to have the right feeling for the material. You would again go back to the discussion of drawing the most beautiful shapes that would not be realistically to achieve. And to be honest, I don't think 3D printed models are as beautiful as the handmade bamboo models that we have right now.
Yeah, I understand. And for the actual miniature models, you only use like miniature bamboo strands, right? You don't use other type of wood or materials.
Maybe we jump to an image. It's really just bamboo.
Yeah, bamboo.
We take the bamboo we would use to build with, split it up in really thin sticks, and then you see our bamboo model maker taking a knife, cutting it down to the right thickness, and then put it in place. And the connections are either super glue, or sometimes you can see string to fix it. And that's basically it.
Guys, can we go to interior images for a second? Okay. You know, since we start this podcast, we constantly get these comments about how modern architects dehumanize the structure and architecture and how it's getting too far from the being human. But I want to mention that your project is exactly the opposite of that view. You have the maximum level of connection between human structure and the nature together, all combined. And I think that's really interesting here because it's such a new aspect for our modern age.
Yeah, it's part of the poetry of bamboo. It's just a beautiful natural material that's existing. It's great that there are different types of bamboo. So here in Bali, we only use 7 species that we can use for construction. But in the world, there are over 1,700 types. And each bamboo is having different properties. Some you can use for construction, but it's maybe 200 in total of them. But there's so much that you can learn about them, how you can use it in different ways. For example, the project we have in Costa Rica, we want to build a grid system. And for that, we use a very small bamboo that's having a lot of flesh inside. So it's a bit more bendy compared to the bamboo that we have here in Indonesia. And that's bringing you to different techniques that you can use, different connections. And everything is really tied back to exposing the structure as part of the design. And then since it's a natural material that's having a small kind of marks and beauty spots, you stop thinking about how you can hide it. On the other hand, you really want to embrace them and show and actually celebrate them. And that's why it's basically leading to the only conclusion of getting a natural design language that's really connected to what's happening around you. So in this way, it's really a logical kind of steps.
And I think it's bamboo is such a renewable source. I think 10 years, 3 years to regrow. I can't remember, but I think it's gonna grow so fast compared to other type of wood.
So when you have the bamboo camp, it's basically a group of different poles that are shooting out of the ground. If you start planting it new, you say you wait more or less 8 years for the bamboo to get mature. And then you can harvest every year about 20% of that clump. And you want to harvest only the old bamboo poles. Normally you say you want to harvest the one that are about 3 to 4 years old, because then they get mature enough. They give the nutritions over to the next generation, and they store the most carbon inside. And what's different to wood is, if you would cut off this bamboo pole, it's not killing the plant. It's just starting to grow and extending in a different spot. And if you would actually not cut the bamboo and use it in a building, would be dying, rotting over, falling, and the carbon would be giving out into the nature again. In this way, it's actually more sustainable to build something out of the bamboo before you get to let it rotting in the forest. But yeah, once the clump is mature, you can say a new bamboo shoot that's growing can be harvested after 3 to 4 years. And for the rest of the life, you have the cycle. We can take it again and again and again.
That's so great. Yeah.
And yeah, maybe last question for me. Would you guys encourage the use of AI design when doing bamboo architecture?
Okay, so we actually have tried it with AI, but we don't think it is it's kind of hard to represent our idea and how bamboo will work with an AI, because the AI itself is not really representative of the normal building. So you can imagine when we try to apply AI to the bamboo architecture, maybe we can just use it for a concept and earlier stage to help us finding different ideas, and maybe we can combine everything. What do you think, Lucas?
I think it's not on the level yet where it's really useful for us. We use it in a few projects, but if you think about using it in the way that people start getting ideas in Midjourney, it's working to a certain degree, but it's not really pushing it to the next level, because Midjourney is basically taking all of the ideas that people have, and it's taking the average kind of thought of all the people together in one image. But what's getting more interesting for us now is to use different plugins. For example, there's Vegas, which is a plugin that you can use in Revit, in Rhino, and in SketchUp even, where you have a live input of your design, and you can get variations based on that AI that's included in there. Mostly it's getting used to do renderings, but it's also really efficient for us to use it in an early concept stage, where you can try out different shapes, different materials, but it's not at the point where you can really use it efficient enough in the way we want to use it.
Yeah, I understand. Since you also explained the whole process, and I don't think AI would really be fitting for this type of approach.